Introduction to the wild boar problem. Their numbers have exploded, soaring past 2.5 million across the state. From the quiet corners of remote farms to the edges of suburban neighborhoods, these invaders are everywhere. And they come with one purpose: to destroy everything in their path. They rip through farmland, poison rivers and ponds, and strip the land bare of resources. Native wildlife is being forced out, their homes stolen and their food supplies wiped clean. This is no longer a small issue. It's a growing war against a force of chaos. That's why we are back out here once again, not for trophies, not for thrill, but to restore balance. This is a mission to defend the land, protect our farms, and safeguard everything generations before us built with their hands and sweat. The hunt begins. At the first light of dawn, the air was cold and sharp, filled with the scent of wet earth. Every roll had been planned, every position set. At exactly 6 o'clock, we moved out, calm but focused. On the western ridge, Jay stood ready. His post overlooked a natural choke point where movement was guaranteed. Minutes later, he caught it. A faint rustle, then a sudden charge through the brush. His finger tightened around the trigger as the beast broke cover, a massive boar, thick-bodied and fast, tearing through the grass like a storm. Jay steadied his breathing, took aim, and fired. One clean shot echoed across the valley. The creature fell instantly. No struggle. No escape. Just silence and the faint drift of smoke from the barrel. For a brief moment, the land was quiet again. The first threat had been stopped before it could vanish into the deep woods. A strong start, calm, clean, and decisive. Eastern flank encounter. While Jay secured the ridge, I took position on the eastern slope. The terrain was uneven and wild, the kind of place where shadows moved faster than light. Then came a sound, low, heavy, and fast. I raised my rifle just as a massive boar charged from the brush, tearing across the hillside with terrifying speed. It moved like a blur, zigzagging between trees, every turn unpredictable. I squeezed the trigger once, twice, missed both times. "What is this thing?" I muttered under my breath. It was like facing a creature that refused to be caught. Then, suddenly, it leapt past a boulder, its massive frame exposed for just a fraction of a second. My instincts took over. Breath held. Sights locked. One pull of the trigger. The shot cracked through the still air, and the beast dropped mid-stride. The chase ended as abruptly as it had begun. My heart pounded hard in my chest. That last move, it was pure instinct, a test of precision and patience. I turned to the others over comms, half laughing, half in disbelief. "Tell me, fellas, was that a clean 10 or what?" Pushing deeper into the hills. By late afternoon, the sun was sinking low, casting long golden streaks over the hills. The deeper we moved, the thicker the brush became, dense and wild, swallowing the trail ahead. Visibility was nearly gone, but our senses stayed sharp. Every sound mattered. Then, out of nowhere, came the thunder of hooves. A wild boar exploded through the undergrowth, sprinting full speed down the only open path it could find. It didn't know it was running straight into a trap. Kevin was already in position at the far end, calm and steady, his rifle resting firm against his shoulder. He waited for the perfect second. When the creature broke into the clearing, he fired twice. 2 sharp bursts, 2 hits. The boar dropped before it could even turn. The dust hadn't settled before Kevin's voice came through the radio, calm and satisfied. "Target down." It was clean, efficient, and precise. The kind of teamwork that turns chaos into order. We regrouped, surveying the valley below as the last rays of sunlight faded. "What do you think, boys?" I asked with a grin. "That pincer move, slick enough for the books?" Night hunting with thermal scopes. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the world grew quiet, but the danger only grew stronger. When darkness takes over, the wild boars move like ghosts, fearless, destructive, and unseen. That's when we adapt. The day's rifles turn into instruments of precision, guided by the soft glow of our thermal scopes. These tools turn night into day, revealing every hidden threat beneath the veil of blackness. Through that glowing lens, I caught sight of a shape emerging from the brush, thick, broad, and moving with purpose. It started rooting up the ground, tearing through soil and crops with reckless hunger. Watching that chaos unfold sparked something inside me. This wasn't just another wild animal, it was a destroyer of homes and livelihoods. I steadied my aim, took a breath, and fired. The heat signature vanished from view, the forest falling silent once again. It came looking for food, but in the end, it dug its own grave. Out here, the rule is simple: if you destroy the land takes you back. Thermal scope precision. As full darkness settled in, the world through my scope transformed into a haunting blend of white and black. Every flicker of movement stood out in sharp contrast, the pulse of life glowing in the cold night air. With our thermal optics, we became silent predators, guardians of the fields we swore to protect. Out in the clearing, the wild hogs were feasting, unaware that every step they took was being tracked. I focused on the largest one, its massive frame outlined in glowing white. My breathing slowed, my finger gently rested on the trigger. One calm squeeze, one precise shot, and the shape dropped instantly. The others scattered in a frenzy, vanishing into the darkness like shadows swallowed by the night. No need for a second round. One perfect shot to end the chaos, to reclaim the peace that dawn would bring. Tomorrow, the farmers would wake to quiet fields and steady ground, never knowing how close the night came to disaster. That's the way we like it, unseen but effective. Finn's relentless pursuit. We didn't stop there. The hunt pressed on, our senses sharpened, our focus unbreakable. Finn, known for his unshakable calm, led the charge into the deeper woods. His movements were steady, almost mechanical, driven by instinct and precision. Then, through the trees, he spotted the leader of the pack, the massive boar commanding the chaos. Without hesitation, he raised his rifle, the crosshair steady against the glowing figure. One shot. The leader dropped. The forest erupted with movement as the rest bolted in panic, but Finn wasn't finished. He swung his rifle with fluid precision, firing in quick succession, cutting down the stragglers before they could vanish into the dark. His determination was relentless, his control absolute. The final barrage echoed across the valley like thunder rolling through the night. When the smoke cleared, silence returned. Only the hum of the forest and the steady beat of our hearts remained. "How many shots did you count in that final run?" I asked, half in awe, half in disbelief. The man barely smiled. For him, numbers didn't matter, only results did. Protecting the crops. Every night, these fields face a war unseen by most. Wild boars, armed with tusks sharp enough to slice through roots and soil, descend like an army of shadows. They rip apart entire acres within hours, leaving devastation worth millions. But tonight, that ends. This is the final stand. The farmers sleep, trusting that someone will hold the line, that someone will protect the ground that feeds them. We are those people, the hunters, the watchers, the last barrier between chaos and peace. As darkness blankets the land, we wait in silence, listening for the faint crunch of hooves and the distant grunts of the approaching herd. The moment they appear, we move as one, calm, precise, unshaken. Every shot fired tonight carries the weight of purpose. Every breath drawn holds the promise of dawn. When the sun rises, these fields will stand unharmed, safe once more. So, as we take our final positions, ready to end the night's rampage, I turn to the team with a quiet grin. Let's see which shot earns the bragging rights this time. Snowy forest hunt. Night hunting is never easy. But when it takes place in a frozen, snow-covered forest, every breath, every sound, every heartbeat becomes a struggle. The cold cuts deep, the silence stretches long, and even the faintest movement can vanish beneath the whisper of falling snow. Yet despite the biting wind and freezing air, Nick and his hunting team pressed forward into the depths of the forest, determined to track down the wild boars hiding within. The air was heavy with tension as the hunters took their positions. Frost clung to their gear, their breaths rising like smoke in the moonlight. After what felt like an eternity, movement stirred in the distance, a herd of wild boars slowly emerging from the underbrush, their dark forms moving silently through the snow. Nick's teammate spotted them first. Without hesitation, he steadied his aim and pulled the trigger. The crack of the rifle split the silence, echoing through the trees. The lead boar dropped instantly, its rampage cut short before it began. But the victory was brief. The rest of the herd reacted with lightning speed, scattering back into the dense thickets. Their heavy hooves thundered against the snow, vanishing into the shadows. The team immediately split up, moving with precision, tracking the faint prints that crisscrossed the white ground. 15 minutes of tense searching passed before Nick caught sight of movement, a lone boar breaking away, charging across the snow with raw desperation. He raised his rifle, steady and focused. A single shot rang out. The boar collapsed mid-stride, never knowing what struck it. Another danger silenced, another threat ended beneath the winter moon. Snowy forest takedown. Meanwhile, on the far side of the forest, one of the team's shooters moved carefully through the icy terrain. Snow-laden branches sagged low, heavy with frost. Every step had to be precise, every sound measured. Then, through the white haze, he caught sight of a heat signature, one more wild boar, crouched beneath a tangle of branches, hidden but not invisible. Taking a calm breath, he adjusted his position for the perfect line of sight. The rifle cracked once, sharp and clean. The boar dropped onto the white snow, its dark body still against the frozen earth. Within moments, the rest of the team followed suit. They struck fast, sweeping through the forest and taking down the remaining targets one by one. The gunfire echoed briefly, then faded into the stillness of the snow. The wild beasts had no chance to regroup or escape. By the time the smoke cleared, every route had been sealed. The destruction had stopped. The hunters stood victorious, their silhouettes framed by the pale light of the winter sky. The snow around them lay quiet once more, pure, untouched, and at peace. Conclusion of the day's hunt. By the time dawn's first light touched the treetops, the forest had fallen completely silent. The hunt was over. Every tense pull of the trigger, every breath drawn in that icy air had helped push back the threat that haunted these lands. From the white snow to the black night, the team had fought not for pride, but for peace. Their mission was complete, but the memory of the night's battle would linger, the echo of gunfire, the crunch of snow beneath their boots, the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had protected those who depended on them. For the local farmers, this victory meant safety. The fields would rest undisturbed, the crops spared from destruction. But for Nick and his men, it was only another chapter in an endless struggle, a reminder that the wild never truly sleeps, and neither can those who guard against it. The ongoing threat. Even now, wild boars continue to spread terror among farmers across the region. Their raids leave fields destroyed and cause losses reaching into the millions. Each night brings new battles, and each dawn reveals fresh scars upon the land. The hunters set out not to intimidate, but to end this menace, to stand as the barrier between chaos and calm. Every ambush, every tense encounter carries the weight of that purpose. It's not just a hunt, it's a duty. But the question always remains, do they have the endurance, the precision, the sheer will to stop the beasts before they strike again? The next hunt will tell. And as the forests grow colder and the nights longer, one thing is certain, the fight is far from over. Finn's team in the snowy forest. The forest in winter is a world of white silence and hidden danger. Beneath its beauty lies the perfect refuge for wild beasts, where their dark forms melt into the shadows of the trees. After days of relentless cold, the clouds finally parted, and sunlight glimmered across the snow. That morning, Finn's team gathered early, their breath visible in the freezing air, ready for the challenges that awaited them. They spread out in formation, following faint trails imprinted on the pristine snow. Every mark told a story, of movement, of hunger, of survival. Then, deep in the forest, a sudden blur of motion caught their eyes. A dark shape darted between the trees, swift and silent, trying to lose itself in the thick brush. But it was too late. Within seconds, the crosshairs locked on. The marksman's finger tightened, steady and sure. One shot cracked through the cold, the recoil biting against his shoulder. The boar fell instantly, the snow beneath it turning red against the pale ground. A clean, precise takedown, swift and unshaken. Finn lowered his rifle, exhaling slowly, his eyes scanning the forest for any sign of movement. The silence that followed wasn't just quiet, it was victory. For tonight, at least, Thomas's team night hunt. The moon climbed high above the horizon, casting a pale glow over the wide, silent fields. Darkness slowly swallowed the land, and with it came the feeling of tension that every hunter knows too well. Thomas and his team were already in position, each man calm, steady, and fully prepared to face the beasts that had tormented these lands for nights on end. Their goal was simple but heavy with purpose: reclaim the fields, end the destruction, and bring peace back to the farmers who depended on this ground. The team spread out carefully, forming a tight perimeter around the fields. Communication was low and precise. Every movement had meaning. Then, the still night was broken by a single, sharp gunshot. It came from Jack's position. Through his infrared binoculars, he had spotted a wild boar grazing recklessly near the crops, tearing up soil and roots like it owned the place. Without hesitation, he adjusted his aim, took a breath, and fired. The beast fell instantly, its rampage cut short in one clean strike. Moments later, gunfire echoed from the other sides of the field, controlled bursts, each one hitting its mark. The sound bounced across the hills, a rhythmic beat of precision and teamwork. One by one, the escape routes were sealed, trapping the intruders in a tightening circle. The hunters moved with discipline, no panic, no wasted motion. It was a perfect start, fast, efficient, and deadly accurate. The team had set the tone for the night. The hunt had begun, and the land was finally fighting back. Herd takedown. Further along the edge of the field, movement stirred again. A herd of wild boars had gathered, their dark shapes blending into the night as they prepared to continue their familiar path of destruction. Their grunts echoed low and menacingly through the still air. One of Thomas's shooters caught sight of them through his thermal scope. He steadied his rifle, found the best angle, and lined up his shot. In seconds, a series of sharp gunshots cracked through the silence. Two of the largest, heaviest boars dropped where they stood, collapsing into the soil they had just been tearing apart. But the others didn't wait around. The survivors bolted in panic, crashing through the brush in a desperate attempt to escape. Thomas immediately signaled his team, coordinating their next move through GPS tracking. Within moments, the hunters regrouped and began advancing toward the escaping herd's direction. Their movements were smooth, calculated, and silent as shadows. Through his binoculars, Thomas spotted them again, a cluster of glowing heat signatures huddled near a small patch of brush, still foraging as if unaware of what had just happened. He raised his rifle slowly, his finger light on the trigger. The others followed his lead, each hunter covering a different direction. Then came his voice, steady, controlled. On my mark. 3, 2, 1. The night exploded with fire. A synchronized barrage of bullets sliced through the darkness. The herd was caught off guard, unable to scatter fast enough. One after another, the boars dropped, their destructive reign ending right where it began. In a matter of seconds, the chaos was over. The only sound left was the faint echo of gunfire fading into the hills and the distant cry of an owl reclaiming the night. As the team approached the now silent field, they could see the result of their efforts. The ground, once torn and ruined, now lay still under the silver moonlight. The carcasses of the fallen beasts marked the price of peace, proof that tonight, at least, the land was safe again. Thomas lowered his rifle, scanning the horizon with tired but satisfied eyes. "That's it for tonight," he said quietly. Around him, the team nodded, their breath steady, their purpose fulfilled. They knew the fight wasn't over, it never truly was, but for this one night, victory belonged to them. Finn's precision shots. In the thick silence of the frozen forest, Finn crouched low behind a fallen pine, his breath steady, his rifle resting firm against his shoulder. The cold bit into his fingers, but his focus never wavered. He had been waiting, listening, for even the faintest sign of movement. Then, in the distance, they appeared. 2 wild boars, massive and furious, charging through the snow straight toward his position. Finn's heartbeat slowed. Time seemed to stretch thin as he adjusted his scope. The first target locked in perfectly, its glowing outline clear against the pale snow. One calm breath. One trigger pull. The first boar collapsed mid-stride. The second charged faster, kicking up a cloud of powder in its wake, but Finn was already tracking it. Another pull of the trigger, another sharp crack of sound echoing through the still forest. The second beast dropped almost on top of the first, motionless. The echo faded into the wind. Silence returned, heavy and pure. 2 precise shots, 2 clean takedowns. Finn exhaled, his breath curling white in the frigid air. Every movement was calculated, every decision exact. There was no panic, no waste, just focus and execution. Another small victory in the endless battle against these relentless beasts. Tightening the encirclement. Deeper in the forest, the rest of the team pressed forward, their boots crunching softly over the frozen ground. The trees grew denser, the air colder. The hunters knew this was where the danger thickened, the wild beasts were gathering, hidden among the dense underbrush. Then, a sharp tone from the tracking device broke the stillness. A signal flashed on the screen. A target was close. "Move in," Thomas ordered quietly. The team spread out instantly, forming a wide perimeter. Each member took their position, eyes scanning every shadow, every branch swaying in the faint wind. The forest felt alive, breathing around them. Suddenly, a flicker of motion. A boar emerged, heavy and dark, pushing through the thicket with brute force. One of the hunters spotted it and reacted without hesitation. A burst of rapid gunfire cracked through the air, each shot sharp and deliberate. The beast stumbled, tried to turn, but the next shot struck true. It collapsed in seconds, its run ended before it could vanish into the trees. The radio crackled softly, confirmation of the kill. Another threat neutralized, another step closer to clearing the area. The hunters regrouped, scanning the cold forest ahead, their formation tightening as they prepared to move again. Out here, hesitation meant failure. Precision was survival. And tonight, there would be no escape for the destroyers of the land. Nick's team forest hunt. Farther south, Nick's team had been moving through a dense stretch of woodland where reports of wild boar attacks had spread fear among local farmers. The destruction had been brutal, fields torn apart, fences ripped through, livestock scattered. Today, the team came not for the thrill, but to end the terror. They arrived before dawn, spreading out quietly across the forest floor. The air was heavy and damp, the canopy above blocking most of the light. Every sound mattered, the crunch of snow, the distant crack of a branch, the slow rhythm of breathing. Minutes passed, long and tense, until a faint rustle came from ahead. One of the marksmen raised his scope. Through the shadows, a familiar silhouette emerged, a massive wild boar stepping cautiously between the trees. Its size alone told the story of its destruction. Without a word, the marksman steadied his aim and fired. The shot rang out sharp and final. The beast dropped instantly, unaware of what had struck it. Outside the thicket, Nick scanned the area, eyes narrowed. He caught another sound, a soft rustle in the leaves behind a fallen log. Slowly, he turned his rifle in that direction. From the shadows, another boar stepped out, its head low, sniffing the air, completely unaware of the danger lying in wait. Nick squeezed the trigger. One clean shot echoed, and the boar collapsed on the spot. For a moment, there was silence again, then a series of distant gunshots echoed across the forest. More of the team had made contact. The sound rolled through the trees like distant thunder, fading into the still night. When it was over, the forest grew quiet once more. The echoes of battle dissolved into the wind, leaving only the sound of rustling branches and falling snow. Peace returned, temporary, fragile, but hard-earned. The hunters had done their work well. For tonight, at least, the forest was safe, reclaimed from the beasts that once ruled it. The challenge of hunting wild boars. Hunting wild boars is not just a test of skill, it's a raw confrontation between instinct and survival. Out there in the wild, every heartbeat counts. The air is thick with tension, and the silence before a charge feels like the calm before a storm. Hunters know that the line between life and death can vanish in a blink. One mistake, one moment of hesitation, and the hunter could easily become the hunted. Each encounter is unpredictable. These beasts are strong, fast, and intelligent, capable of turning a peaceful forest into a battlefield in seconds. To face them, a hunter must carry not only his weapon but also his composure. Fear has no place here. Reflexes, precision, and calmness under pressure decide everything. In this game, hesitation costs blood. Only those who can read the forest, sense danger before it appears, and strike with unwavering focus can return home unscathed. Every shot echoes like thunder, and every echo reminds them how thin the line truly is. It's not about trophies or glory, it's about survival, balance, and courage. This is the heart-pounding truth behind the hunt. Wild boars as an invasive threat. Wild boars are no longer just animals roaming the wilderness. They've become an unstoppable invasive force, feared not only for their strength but for their sheer ability to multiply and adapt. Their numbers have exploded beyond control, spreading across farmlands and forests, leaving trails of devastation in their wake. What used to be isolated damage is now destruction on a scale 3 times greater than before. Crops are shredded overnight. Fields once green and abundant now lie in ruins. Their tusks rip through fences, irrigation lines, and anything in their path. They tear through ecosystems, pushing native species to the brink and turning peaceful communities into war zones. But what makes them truly formidable is not just their numbers, it's their cunning. These creatures learn, evolve, and strike back. Each hunt teaches them something new. For those who stand against them, the challenge is monumental. Every mission demands strategy, teamwork, and split-second decisions. Every step must be measured, every shot deliberate. There's no room for error. The hunters know what's at stake. It's not just a battle for control, it's a fight for balance, for land, for livelihood. And today, we step into the very heart of that struggle, where every move must be perfect and every heartbeat matters. Mammoths hunt in Kizilcum. Deep within the rugged wilderness of Kizilcum, the land stretches like a living maze, dense underbrush, winding trails, and hidden clearings that swallow sound and light. It's a place that tests even the most seasoned hunters. Mehmet, a veteran with decades of experience, had been tracking a herd for hours. His eyes followed the faint signs, hoof marks in the mud, broken branches, disturbed soil. Every clue drew him closer. Then, a faint rustle. His instincts sharpened. He steadied his rifle, scanning the dense foliage. After an hour of stillness, the forest finally stirred. A massive boar emerged from the shadows, its tusks glinting faintly under the dim sun. Mehmet's breath slowed. The world narrowed to a single point of focus. One squeeze of the trigger, and the silence shattered. The beast dropped instantly. But the hunt was far from over. Wild boars rarely travel alone. Mehmet knew the rest of the herd was close. He moved swiftly but silently, circling the area, eyes sharp for movement. Soon enough, more shadows shifted through the brush. In moments, the calm turned to chaos. Gunfire cracked through the trees, echoing across the valleys. One after another, the beasts fell. By day's end, the forest grew still again. Mehmet stood quietly, surrounded by the fading smoke and the cooling air. The battle had been fierce, but it was victory hard-earned. For him, it was never about triumph, it was about restoring the fragile balance of this land he called home. Adam's hunt in Kızılkum. Elsewhere in the vast, untamed landscape of Kızılkum, another hunter prepared for his test. Adam had come expecting a challenge, but what awaited him surpassed every expectation. As he scanned the horizon through the morning haze, movement caught his eye, a herd of wild boars pushing through the undergrowth, heading straight toward open ground. The sight stirred a surge of focus within him. It was a rare opportunity, and he was ready. Years of experience had honed Adam's instincts to perfection. Every motion was smooth, every decision precise. He took position, adjusted his rifle, and waited for the perfect moment. The herd advanced, unaware of the danger waiting ahead. Then, with practiced calm, Adam fired. 1, 2, 3 sharp cracks split the air. Each shot found its mark. Boars scattered, but Adam moved like a shadow, reloading and tracking, his rhythm steady as a heartbeat. The forest roared with sound, the rush of hooves, the echo of gunfire, the raw pulse of survival. But in the chaos, Adam remained composed, his mind clear. By the time the last echo faded, the herd was gone, and the land was quiet once more. Standing beneath the vast Kızılkum sky, Adam exhaled slowly. The hunt had been fierce, yet controlled. Every choice had mattered. In his world, precision was everything, and today, it had paid off. The threat had been pushed back, at least for now. Karam's ambush strategy. Deep within the forest, Karam and his team were quietly executing a carefully laid plan. The terrain was dense, the air heavy with the scent of damp soil and pine. They had studied the trails for days, identifying one narrow path that wild boars often used during their nightly foraging runs. By afternoon, the team had set their bait, checked wind direction, and constructed a small concealed observation post. Every move was deliberate, every sound muffled. As the light faded, tension began to build. Hours passed in complete silence, broken only by the rustle of distant branches. Then, faintly at first, came the sound they had been waiting for, the rhythmic steps of the herd approaching the feeding trough. Karam raised his binoculars, watching the dark shapes move cautiously out of the thicket. The beast sniffed the air, suspicious yet tempted by the bait. Then came the perfect moment. With the herd fully distracted, Karam gave the silent signal. In an instant, the forest exploded with precision gunfire. The first shots were perfectly timed, dropping several targets before the rest could react. Panic spread through the herd, but escape was impossible. The team had the area surrounded, every angle covered. One boar, fast and desperate, bolted toward the narrow trail, but before it could vanish into the brush, a sharp crack echoed, and it fell mid-stride. The ambush was a flawless success. In mere seconds, Karam's strategy had turned patience into triumph. Every detail, from the wind check to the timing of the attack, had paid off. It was a clean operation that proved once again that true mastery lies not just in pulling the trigger, but in understanding the art of the hunt itself. Farruk's quick reaction. The summer grasslands are as deceptive as they are beautiful. Beneath the golden waves of dry grass, danger waits in silence. Here, wild boars often strike without warning, targeting livestock and leaving chaos behind. Local farmers struggle daily to defend their herds, and that's why Farruk took up position near one of the most frequently raided sites, determined to put an end to the destruction. He had been watching quietly for hours when a sudden movement caught his eye, a full-grown boar emerging from behind a thick patch of grass, its muscles tensed, its tusks glinting in the harsh sun. The distance was close, too close for comfort. Farruk had only seconds to react. His training kicked in instantly. With steady hands and a calm breath, he raised his rifle, took aim, and fired. The shot rang sharp and final. The boar dropped where it stood, its charge halted before it could even begin. The silence that followed was heavy and satisfying. It wasn't luck. It was focus, speed, and unshakable discipline. In the world of wild boar hunting, moments like these define the line between disaster and victory. Farruk's quick reflexes and precision had once again proven that in the field, it's not about how long you wait, it's about how fast you act when the moment finally arrives. Zafar's hunt in Tajikistan. Far to the north, in the snow-clad mountains of Tajikistan, the hunt takes on an entirely different face. Here, the air bites like steel, the wind howls through frozen valleys, and the temperature plunges to -15 degrees. Every breath feels like ice, and every step crunches under layers of untouched snow. Yet for Zafar, this was the perfect battleground, a place where skill, endurance, and willpower merge into one. He had been tracking the herd since dawn, scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Then, through his scope, he caught a glimpse, barely visible, a large group of wild boars nestled behind dry shrubs, their dark bodies blending into the pale landscape. Most eyes would have missed it, but not his. Patience met opportunity in that single moment. Zafar steadied his rifle, lined up the alpha boar, and squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked through the frozen air, echoing down the mountainside. The massive beast dropped instantly, and chaos erupted as the rest of the herd scrambled in confusion. But Zafar was already prepared. With calm precision, he moved through his sequence of shots, each one decisive and measured. Within moments, the hunt was over. The silence that followed was hauntingly beautiful. Steam rose from the snow where the fallen beasts lay. Against the fierce wind, Zafar exhaled, a hunter victorious not through luck, but through mastery of patience, observation, and control. The importance of strategy and precision. Every hunt you've witnessed today shares a single truth: success belongs to those who think, plan, and strike with purpose. The battles fought in these forests and fields aren't just tests of strength or courage. They are lessons in patience, discipline, and precision. Each shot fired carries hours of preparation, deep understanding of terrain, and the ability to act at the perfect instant. From Karim's perfectly executed ambush to Farruk's lightning-fast reflexes, and Zafar's ice-cold accuracy under impossible conditions, each story reveals that hunting is more than a pursuit. It is a craft. Every decision, from wind direction to positioning, defines the outcome. In this world, there are no second chances. You wait for one moment, one heartbeat, and when it arrives, you take it with absolute confidence. That is the art of the hunt, the balance between man and nature, instinct and patience, risk and precision. And for those who live by it, every successful mission is not just a victory, it's proof that mastery is built one perfect shot at a time.